Good morning, Bitcoiners across the world. I am excited to have Gary Mahmoud with me today, part of BTC Mentor, and he is funny, humble, self-deprecating, and has opinions. So this, you never know, this could get a little spicy, which I'm good for, and I'm excited to have him on today. Gary spent 6 years working in Congress before becoming an actor in the entertainment industry, which he might say is not that much different. He has played intelligent, authoritative characters with hints of smugness, sarcasm. He's been on television dramas, funny, quick-witted, high-status idiots and jerks and TV comedies. He has also written and co-produced comedy shorts, which have been seen by millions online and elsewhere. Over the past decade, after finding Bitcoin and learning self-custody methods, he's worked to stay up to date steadily with the latest in Bitcoin technology, so that he and helping others can secure your and your family's future. Working with Ben Perrin of BTC Sessions and the Bitcoin Mentor team, he provides training, support, best practices. People across the globe utilize their services, the proteges of BTC Mentor, and helping them along their Bitcoin journey. So with that, Gary, super excited to have you today.
Fritz, thanks for having me. You know, that intro sounds remarkably similar to the bio on the BTC Mentor website.
I did my research, and I didn't completely copy and paste, but I kind of did also. So
that's okay. You're a harder worker than I am. I would have just completely copied and pasted and read the thing. So good for you.
Well, when I met you in Vegas, I thought, he must be a podcaster. Oh no, wait, he's Bitcoin Mentor, BTC Mentor. It wasn't until later, and I looked you up, and I'm like, oh, dude. I mean, I don't watch a ton of TV, but you've been in a lot of stuff. Talk about a navigating life journey, the chapters in our lives. To what extent does acting keep you busy these days? I know it's ebb and flow type of a business, but
yeah, it's really ebb and flow. Life was good in like the late 2010s, like 2018, 2019, and I was booking a lot, and then obviously, COVID hit. That shut down everything for about a year and a half. Things picked up pretty well in the immediate aftermath after that, but I think that was just a lot of the projects that were kind of cut off midway through. They had to finish up because like 2022 to 2025 was like a big 3-year lull, and that's part of what got me into BTC Mentor. And I think it's been a blessing for me because I don't think I would have pursued that if there really wasn't this lull in the acting work. Like, man, I need to make some money, but I want to do it in something that I'm already passionate about. And I fortunately found, Ben and Mike, the co-founders of BTC Mentor, and it's been a great group of people to work with. I've learned so much. So there we go. There, promote right there. So yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know if I believe in fate or, a higher spiritual thing or that things in life happen for a reason or whatever, but I feel like it worked out pretty well for me this time. I've met a bunch of really great, genuine people with integrity. I've learned a lot, and I've got to participate in something that I believe could have a real positive impact for the future of mankind.
Yeah, it's a great team, a great group, and you have been through a good bit of stale and fresh hell lately with, dare I name it, the whole cold card deal. I don't personally, I never personally use cold card, but the reputation, and we have this, the social layer to Bitcoin where when people would ask me about it, I'd describe what I did, and people might ask about cold card, or I might even just say, yeah, I mean, I think cold card sounds good. How do you fully trust and verify? Describe you've been really busy lately with that. To the extent you want or can share, I don't personally know anybody in my analog space that was affected by it, but I read the stories online, and then my personal feelings are just so deeply like I am pained with what all happened. And then as we do a post-mortem about it, like what the fuck? And then also trust, verify, and yet to what extent and how do you? And yet, hey, but all the things. Anyway, how has all that been on your end of the stuff?
Well, yeah, we spent the past 10 days just trying to help anybody we possibly could. Obviously, we feel like we have egg on our face because we recommended cold card. Like that was a thing we heavily recommended. I have mine right here. I used cold card. I got the Q right here, and I thought it was a great device. I still think it's a great device. I mean, if all else being equal, it's my favorite Bitcoin signing device. I mean, I
Right.
always tell people it looks like this big, complicated BlackBerry, but I've played with a few others. I played with the Jade, Trezor, Passport, and I found this to be the most user-friendly, with a bunch of options on it as well. But even if you don't use the options, I thought it was great. So I've been very disappointed with what happened, obviously. But thank
Yeah.
I didn't get rugged. But I know one person through Ben who did, Alberta Hoddle. You could find him on Twitter, and
Oh,
he participates in the Sats market with
uh-huh.
up in Canada, and he sells beef jerky. And he basically has been dealing with Bitcoin. Like that's how he's been making his money, doing his savings for his family. And he got 90% rugged when this all went down. So, uh,
Oh,
yeah, so his
I saw
savings.
one of his posts. I didn't realize how bad it was.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, I felt horrible for him. I asked him for his address and let me send you some sats. And he was very reticent. He's a very proud man. He doesn't want to take charity. I'm like, please, dude, let me just send you a little bit. You need this more now, more than I do. And it's not going to make like a life difference for him. But if anybody wants to send him a few sats, I'm sure he'd appreciate it, if only just for a spiritual boost.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking here. Yeah, here we go. I'm gonna put this on stage here. So, Alberta Hoddle makes beef jerky, very popular stuff. I know. I think Francis with Bull Bitcoin and others love the stuff. Yeah, there it is, Bull Bitcoin. Anyway, uh, send some sats his way. Get his jerky. Help him out. That's the thing is that so many, honestly, when you get on the Bitcoin journey, you start somewhere and you're
Yeah.
starting on zero and then you're learning and you're learning, you get excited and then you're learning. You can get over your skis. You can be testing stuff out and see it work and then feel like, oh, I understand this. And then we hit things like, um, not to say bad actors, but uh, it's tough when the ecosystem presumes things about a brand or someone describing it in ways as an authority when they don't know or that it's not verified or whatever. But good people on a Bitcoin journey do the right thing and are actually taking a step more than most people who get on Bitcoin. Because I promote self custody all the time. Hey, take self custody. It's not yours. We've said that for years. You can have an IOU or you can own it. And when you own it, you're taking that responsibility and there's all these things to it. So then there's a thing about the keys. People were taking those good next steps, taking self custody. And heck, I did that the first couple of different times I was learning was, oh, my Trezor made a key. Must be good, right? They've been around for a long time. You trust that. And so good people like Alberta Hoddle got rugged. And then you see, I mean, there's emotions involved. You see people everywhere from like pushing towards almost blaming the victim to certainly putting it all squarely on NVK or Cold Card or whatever. The truth is like in between. We were all part of this social layer of um, learning ourselves in a way. I guess the zeitgeist of Bitcoin has changed definitely in the terms of entropy and now also lately AI hammering for asymmetric bugs in software. It's not just people who made mistakes. It's all kinds of everybody that got caught up in this.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't blame people who thought they were doing the right thing. I mean, Alberta Hoddle, like many others, they're the people who took the time to do, hey, I want to do self-custody. I'm not going to leave it with a third party. He took all the steps that he thought he was doing right. And that's why I feel like this is, and you've probably heard the same sentiment from many people, this is one of the most devastating things that has happened in the Bitcoin space, because we've seen exchanges, collapse or bad actors there or government step in and like, well, guys, we've been saying that's why you got a self-custody. So it's happened before and I'm sure it'll happen again. But the idea of getting your private keys discovered and swiped, like that's crazy. And, it's hard for people now. I've seen people online say, well, if this is the trouble I have to go to have my Bitcoin, like I'm just going to buy some gold, stick it in a coffee can, bury it in the backyard. I can't say I blame you for that sentiment. Like we're in a situation right now where I don't know if we have a fully recommended course of action. We could say, no, this is definitely the way to go. I mean, the best we can do is like, hey, There are some positives and negatives. There are trade-offs to everything, depending upon where you are in life and what you're doing. These are the things you should consider, and maybe kind of we'll try to figure it out together and go from there. What works best for you? What works best for one person may not work well for another. Yeah, there's some victim blaming, but I don't know how you can do that. I mean, I got lucky. Like because I'm a little paranoid and part autistic, I did dice rolls and I sat there and it's like, well, 100, you're good. I'm like, no, I'm rolling 200. I don't even know if that added anything, but I did the thing. So in theory, I think I'm okay, but
Yeah,
I'm taking extra steps now. Like I'm trying to figure out where to go from here.
I know your mind starts playing these weird existential threat concerns about like, what if down the road, like, I mean, the whole quantum FUD is bullshit, of course. And yet, what if down the road between AI or quantum or something we don't know, like 100 dice rolls was pretty good, but now with enough time and some years, that could be hacked. Well, then I
Maybe.
should have rolled it 200 times. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
What do you do? And I've been talking to some people, and they're like, "Well, I'm just scared now. I want to get out. I want to go into an ETF or just cash out." And
Right.
I had to talk to somebody. I don't expect to convince them. We're in a situation where people are really scared about what happened to their money or what could happen to their money. I said it's worth remembering that the math still works. The
Right.
math did not get hacked. It's
Yeah.
human error, or hopefully, possibly, maybe worse, that got hacked. The math
Right.
is still solid.
Yeah, I know Bitcoin. Now we can look at all the crazy dramas in Bitcoin lately. So before we get into all that, I do want to focus on BTC Mentor. You talked about now you started learning Bitcoin back in 2012, got some Bitcoin back in 2013, have been learning ever since. Connected now, I know a lot of Bitcoiners who also found Bitcoin during the COVID years when COVID got weird and we're all just like, what? Grappling with that in various ways. Some of us getting checks for what? And then that's when, right before that was about when I found it, but COVID really kind of clinched it for me. So it was in that era too, then you start leaning in a lot more too. And you come across Ben and the team there. Tell me about meeting them and then deciding to help become a mentor and what it's been like doing mentor work. And then we'll talk about how things have changed in your view on that with
I
the current paradigm.
it's been wonderful for me. For my soul, if there's a soul, if there's such a thing, it's been wonderful for me because I first hooked up with them when I was just looking around for a job. Like I said earlier, I was an actor for a while, and then the business started to go south for a while, and I ended up looking around for a job that I was hoping would be something I'm already interested and passionate about. So I looked on bitcoinerjobs.com, which is
Oh
exclusively
yeah,
Bitcoin jobs. Yep, and I found it on
I've
there,
looked
and
at that.
yeah. And when I did the interview, one of the things they asked me, why do you want to work with us? And I said, well, I do this stuff for free. I'm passionate about talking to people about this for free. If somebody wants to pay me, I mean, I'll take the money on top of it. So it's been a nice, wonderful place where I feel like I'm making a positive difference and I'm doing something worthwhile. Acting is something I enjoy. I just get a personal kick out of it, and I get to come on set and screw around and play pretend. But I don't feel like I'm making any real like positive difference in humanity there. I had somebody. I did Law and Order like 2 or 3 years ago, and I got to set, and the production assistant's like, "Okay, this way to your trailer, sir." And I'm like, "Sir, you can just call me Gary." He's like, "Well, some of our actors expect a certain level of respect." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Do you know
You
what
are
I?"
an actor.
Yeah, whatever. Like, right? Like, do you know what I do for a living? I get paid to play pretend, like a child. Like, what? What are you talking about? So it's nice to work in some place where I do feel like I'm actually making a real world difference, and I'm grateful for it. And I've met really cool people.
You've pursued things that have fed your passions, and so like making the leap from Capitol Hill to New York to go pursue your passion in acting, and um, taking that kind of leap of faith. You're a man of conviction, and also happen to be humble about it. So you start doing some acting. You get used to rejection. I mean, I only know adjacently people that worked adjacent and in sort of like Hollywood stuff. But I tell you, you probably learn to have some kind of thick skin, handle
Have
rejection.
to.
And but then when you show up, you can just vibe. You can have fun. You know how to work hard, but also have fun. And
Yeah.
anyway, so that certainly what people need when they're looking for a mentor, describing where people are going along their Bitcoin journey, a lot of people are not, they're interested in Bitcoin, say, or they want to learn more. And they're not like as autodidactic maybe as you or I are, or learning themselves, pushing the way that we do.
Fritz, could I
But
stop you a second?
yeah,
I'm retarded. Can you tell me what autodidactic means?
okay. We even us 80 IQ plebs can still kind of lean in and learn as best we can.
Yeah, so please tell me what autodidactic means. I've heard that word before, and I don't know what it means. I'm genuinely asking.
Like, okay, so yeah, so like you pursue knowledge yourself and you learn yourself. You don't have to go to a class. You don't have to be told by a person to
Got it.
be. You don't have to hear it from somewhere else before you learn it or believe it. You can just go seek your own truth and learn it for yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining it.
Self-learning.
Thank you.
We're like Satoshi was an autodidact and a genius.
Okay.
And a lot of Bitcoiners are self-learning. So we get a bug about something and we just start digging in, and we don't need others to validate it. We just know that we want to, so we do it. So it allows us to go off into rabbit holes.
Right.
So people who aren't as good at that, they need a mentor. I mean, at some level, at some points in my Bitcoin journey, I wouldn't have gotten pushed as far as well as I did as quickly without friends or people I came across and learned from who helped guide me, like, oh, don't do that. It kind of, it helped push me away from things like, shit coinery or the exchanges, or then with the ETFs. At that point I knew, but we need a good Bitcoin mentor. So when it comes to trust and verify, there is a social layer to all of this. As a mentor, do you find yourself balancing, okay, as I'm stepping you through things, teaching you things, it does culminate in a kind of, okay, you understand about the personal responsibility part of it now. It's not like a protege is not going to say, well, I got a guy, he just takes care of it for me. And I don't know what's going on. There's probably a lot of like, okay, I'm going to step you through, but at the end of the road, this is on you with your keys, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's something we've run into with all the people we've been helping over the past 10 days. Like I said, a lot of it has been our proteges, people that have paid us and worked with us before. We've been helping everybody, though. Anybody that just needs help, we want to come in and, help them as best we can. And one thing that I've been discovering, and a lot of the other mentors have been discovering, especially with our proteges, not all of them, but many of them, we kind of had this idea. We'll take you through, an hour lesson or 3-hour lessons or 5 or 10 and kind of get you set up. And when we leave them, they're in really good shape. They know how to sign off. They know how to do everything they need. But because most of them are just stacking, they're not using transacting on a daily basis. They don't touch their cold card again. And, Mike, the owner of the company, made a really great point that we've been running into. It's like teaching a 16 or 17-year-old how to drive. They get their license and you say, okay, don't drive a car for 5 years and now jump in and see how you do. They're not going to be faring all that well. And a lot of them have forgotten some of the things they've learned and they're still nervous about it. So we are reevaluating within the company a better way, hopefully, to kind of go about it so things will stick long term and you don't need to panic and don't need to call us. We're always happy to be there. Always. We want to be able to help people, but we don't want you to be in a position where like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I hope I can get a mentor on the line real fast. So it is something that we are evaluating and trying to figure out the best way to handle that.
Yeah, it's hard. It takes years and time and work to say you're in Bitcoin, getting that full context. For some people, they may never quite have the full context and they need sort of that step-by-step, well, I'm going to do this, follow the instructions. At some point it'll gel, but some of this, like they're still learning, but I want to know like the best step-by-step thing. I have thought through that myself in terms of where does someone comes to me from a point of, certain people I've orange pilled. I've been like, wow, they shouldn't even take self-custody because they can't handle it like grandma or something, like just, and then others are capable. And then I think, okay, how do you do that just right? I love having that, like, okay, nice list of instructions, step-by-step. Here's a rock solid just way to do that. Now, when that chain gets a little disrupted, it's like, oh, what is that rock solid process now? So I think this is hitting a lot of consulting type service folks, mentors of all kinds, individual Bitcoiners that at any point in their lives ever orange pilled. We're all reconciling how we did that, what we said, checking on the people like, what's your setup? Are you okay? Just checking on them. It seems like it's been a really stressful time. I know Ben, he was online really honest and open about, especially when it was really fresh, going through it hard, feeling the emotions, sort of the letdown, the rug pull of it in a way, what we presumed and why, and you're pissed,
Yeah.
and also taking like some accountability about like, wow, we all were thinking a lot in these directions, even as yes, you could roll dice, you didn't have to,
Yeah.
but anyway, it's been I just imagine you seem to be in pretty good shape after a really rough week and a half. Have you I guess, have you had any real bad anecdotal stories that we talked about Alberta HODL, but overall, did customers, proteges seem to come out okay about it?
Yeah, I mean, everybody that I worked with is very grateful, and they seem in fine shape, and they got their sats out, and I think I think like 99% of the people we worked with were able to kind of get away and have their money saved. I think there was maybe one or two where they didn't get to it in time, but for the most part, everybody's very grateful, and I'm glad we were able to do it.
There were people that I just sort of presumed when all the news was blowing up, it's like, oh, people are hearing about this. I just assumed people the Bitcoiners that are on X that I knew had heard about it. And I started reaching out to some random people, and some were like even a day later, like, what? Huh? And I was like, oh, damn, like we got to get the word out.
Yeah.
And that's where having a good mentor can help, where, you're reaching out to your proteges.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. The second I saw the news drop, I immediately went to my list of personal proteges that I've worked with, and I sent out a mass email. Hey, this is what's going on. And I even got it wrong in the initial email because I sent it out like as soon as I heard. And in those times, we thought, oh, it's just the MK3s. Your 4s, 5s, and Qs are fine. So I said, hey, just letting you know, if you're in a 4 or 5 Q, don't worry, but this is something you want to have on your radar. And then, of course, by the next morning when I woke up and I saw, oh, no, the 4s, 5s, and Qs are also affected. They're just a little bit safer. Of course, I immediately sent out a follow-up, just going with what I happened to know at the time. So immediately we got the word out. And I know Nathan, who's just an amazing person over at BTC Mentor, he sent out mass emails to anybody and everybody he could find as well.
Yeah. So if you don't have a mentor and you need a good mentor, BTC Mentor is a good one. You can get a free discovery call, so you can kind of, feel out what it is that you need, and to the extent you might be helped or need it. Got a newsletter there. And then you can contact Gary directly, Bitcoin Mentor here. You can book a session directly with Gary here. So I wanted to point that out.
Oh, thanks for the promo, Fritz.
Of course, btcmentor.io, and then you'll find Gary there on the website. You can find out, you can learn more about the team and who they all are. Okay, well, going from there, wow, the the drama in Bitcoin has just been crazy in so many different ways, and it's easy to see, like, to imagine things about the timing of it all. I think in one sense, the cold card thing blows up, and so now we've got a lot of people, a lot more eyeballs just looking at the space, and we've got red teams using AI to the best we can navigate on how to not get governed or leashed by, American AI, but like having to reach out to Chinese AI and really hammer on code and find other bugs. So then we find other bugs, and then it's like, oh, hey, BTC Pay server, we didn't even know about this. That's been there for a while too. Oh, hey, now we find this. Then there's the BIP 110 chain split and drama about that. And then it's like, and bolts went down, and other technologies, decentralized finance type technologies are getting hammered. And it's a lot of this is AI. A lot of this is, I'm not even sure, but there's a lot going on with it right now. I guess do you ever have anything existential about Bitcoin itself threatened or concerned?
I mean, I personally don't. Listen, I'm never a person that says 100% for anything ever. Like I'm always like, all right, 99.999, because I know I don't know everything. I don't know close to everything. I don't know close to 0.0000001% of everything. So for me to sit here and say there is definitely no existential problem in Bitcoin, there will never be any existential problem in Bitcoin, I cannot say that. But generally speaking, no, I feel very, very confident in it. I'm still stacking every day. Nothing like that has changed. I don't know enough about quantum to really evaluate what kind of a threat that is, and I don't know enough about even the Bitcoin underlying code to understand what the vulnerabilities are. I mean, I'm an Apple Genius Bar guy, like I'm here to show you how to use the equipment and work it, for Bitcoin, which isn't a company, which doesn't have its own Apple Genius Bar. But I couldn't tell you, like, I'm not a coder. I couldn't go into it and explain to you how this all works under the hood. I just know how to use it. So from my understanding, everything seems a-okay. I don't think there's anything in the future that would threaten it, and I'm still stacking.
Yeah, me too. The Bitcoin base layer protocol, all that, it is rock solid. And if anything, when I imagine the game theory down the road in terms of threats to it, there's things about centralization of areas of it. There was the disagreements over the nature of how core integrated changes or applied changes. You can still run different nodes. And yeah, for me, Bitcoin remains so rock solid. And what I've thought to myself was, okay, well then, like, what would the alternative be? Is there any alternative? You're going to like stack your guns and ammo and gold?
Yeah.
Or, it is still the absolute best technology that I'll just say the powers that be, the legacy system is grappling with trying to manage, and they can't fully. So they create these walled gardens. Meanwhile, they are being forced into this kind of realignment with a new set of rules. Now, at times, I look at it two ways. I get impatient about the speed at which this would all happen, and I would love to see it just change the system, or separate money and state.
Yeah, we were supposed to have flying cars by now, right?
What's going on? Where's my jetpack?
Yeah.
On the other hand, so much really has changed very quickly. To think about just a few years ago, and the ETFs happened, and it was like, oh wow, it's ETF time now. A lot really is changing. So time preference. We have to remind ourselves of having an appropriate time preference about this stuff too. You've mentioned that you Bitcoin even better in a way because you are thinking in terms of like your family, your kids, stacking for the future, right?
Yeah, I don't view this as, I've never viewed it as like a 1 year, 2 year, 3, 5, whatever. Like I'm just going to go in and get out. Because even if I did view it that way, to something you just said, where else would I park my money? Like find me the better alternative. It's not like I'm sitting here saying like, Bitcoin is super cool, the best thing. And oh my God, it's literally Jesus. It's like, no, it's just, I'm sure there are flaws with it. There are things about it that I wish were better. I wish there were better privacy. And there are other things about it. I'm sure I could go down a list of like, man, I wish these things were better about Bitcoin. I don't view it as a perfect solution, but I just find me the better one. I go over it again. Like anytime I think of like, well, maybe should I have X amount of money in Bitcoin? Where should I put it? Well, do I put it in real estate? Like, I don't know, let's say I need to leave for some reason, leave the country for some reason. How am I going to go sell it? Or the state wants to tax me a whole bunch. Like, and how do I manage it? And that's a whole headache in and of itself. Like I got to either work out of myself or hire somebody. Do I put it in bonds? Oh my God, no. Do I put it in stocks? I don't know the people running those companies. Yeah. I mean, they might be doing okay, but then I'm relying on the money printer to basically bolster everything up. I mean, you've thought this too. We could go on and on and on, but it just still keeps coming back to Bitcoin for me. Even gold. I'm like, all right, well, yeah, gold. I still have a little bit of gold hidden, like that I bought, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, a few coins here and there. But if I want to sell that, I'm getting a haircut off the top of that. You have to verify it. Somebody's got to, melt it down. Is this actually the real thing? And, you got to physically move it. And, Michael Saylor, wherever you think of him, positive or negative, he made a great point that I kind of blew my mind when I was listening to the Sailor series with Robert Breedlove, 5 years ago. That really stuck with me. You've thought about this. You go through the airport with over $10,000 cash and they find it. They're going to seize it from you and assume you're guilty of something. Good luck getting it back. Same with $10,000 worth of gold. I can go through the airport with $100 billion worth of Bitcoin in the form of 12 memorized words in my head. Nobody has any clue that I have it. I can go right through, end up in another country, pop it in a wallet. Here it is. Good luck finding it.
Exactly.
I don't know. What's the better alternative? If there is one, I have to be humble and be open to hearing it. If somebody presents me with a better alternative, I will listen. I just don't know what it is.
There is not one. I've come to that conclusion, and I'll revisit that, check that conclusion periodically, just sort of like with people say, well, Monero or these other things. It's like, okay, what Bitcoin has is the biggest, most strong decentralized network globally. And that's, it's like, well, what's Bitcoin backed by? How about the largest network operating on the planet with tens of thousands of nodes, and now a tremendous amount of wealth invested in it as well. But yeah, there's no alternative. There's really just, I mean, there are different things you can do technically, yes, but they have their risks or limitations for sure, like with gold. So there's no alternative. There is no second best. And that's what orange pilled me was. I first came across Breedlove. He was on another podcast where they were talking about what is money. So then I went to What is Money, and I don't know, randomly or algorithmically directed. I went to What is Money, and there's the Sailor series. And then there I was for like a day and a half straight on a marathon, listening to that whole damn thing.
Yep.
And I just went on a tear with the Sailor series, and I would go back and replay some of it, and I was just like, oh, I mean, now the Bitcoin Standard is great. Other books are great, sure. But that Sailor series just probed my brain and left me with a total paradigm shift. I was like, oh, I get it now. So yeah, similar path there. So I still say Bitcoin is still TikTok next block. The chain is functioning fine. Move forward. And we are surviving all the past dramas, and actually this all strengthens Bitcoin on par, all the ups and downs. This strengthens the Bitcoin ecosystem. So we still Bitcoin, even as you might like roll your dice and all this stuff now. And I still say, hey, run a node. That'll be an opportunity to learn. Take self-custody. Now do it right. That'll be an opportunity to learn. Do you want to talk about a self-custody device and what you like? I know you've seen MicroSeed, and here's my version 2 here.
I got version 1, which Daniel was so kind to give to me for free at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas, not this past year, but the year before. So kind. And I played with it. I had a lot of fun with it. I don't think there's any perfect solution to, getting your seeds in hard metal or whatever. There are trade-offs with all of it. So there are things about it that I really love and things that I was like, oh boy, that's an issue for me, especially with my ADD. But I'm happy to talk about it if you want.
Yeah. Let's see. So my buddy and I, Daniel and I, and we brought Robin Sayer on board. We created MicroSeed, and you can go to microseed.io so you can stamp your seed phrase on metal. So when we talk about self-custody, when I first heard of, stamping a private key on metal, this was years ago. I was like, really? How base do you have to LARP to be? But then when you learn about the nature of self-custody, entropy, doing it right, and not just relying on a device, but like actually, what does it mean to have a private key? And then what? You might have like, a piece of paper with words on it or something. And then you're like, okay, now what? You get a hardware device. You have different things in your life where, you've got your devices and all this stuff.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, cool. I've got a device. I did everything right. And now you're looking at your treasury, if you will, depending on how you break it up and what that is. But you're like, what if this got really hot or really wet or, acts of God, flood, fire, the things, theft. Like somebody says, oh, I know what this is. I can just look at that and say that might be important. So anyway, that's where we got into, okay, stamping it on metal and having a private key. And then there's a variety of ways to do that where you have like a plate. And I was like, okay, I get it. You can have a plate. You can have your 12 words on a plate. Now, clearly, depending on how you do that, it can be bigger or less bigger. but also often typically visible. And so if somebody sees it and they go, oh, 12 words or 24 words. Anyway, that's how we came up with the idea, so that you could have it all on just like a little washer, basically.
Right. Yep. I got those here. And I
Tell
think
me
it's
what, criticize it. Tell me
no,
what you.
no. I want to start. First of all, I think it's a fantastic idea. Before I say anything, though, for any of my proteges watching, don't ever do what Fritz just did and put your seed words up on the camera like that. And I know those aren't your actual seed words, but don't ever do that. In fact, the first thing I tell anybody who is gonna, ask for our services and get on a call with me, I said, before we do anything, don't ever tell me how much Bitcoin you have. I don't want to know. And don't tell me or show me your seed words. That never, ever do that. So bear that in mind.
I do that as like my example of like
as your
those
example.
are fake words. I make them up to do tests with. It's no entropy involved. It's just, but anyway,
he said as he quickly scrambled them on and changed them right now and got new seed words while I'm talking.
Yeah. Hey, can I pause real quick while I move my coins?
Yeah.
We've had people come to our booth and look at our device and say, wait, so do I give you my private keys and you stamp them? And it's like, no. You stamp your keys. This device just does it all for you. So
right. So it's a great thing to do, putting your keys in metal. And like you said, it sounds like this LARPing, like I'm super autistic, Bitcoin paranoid. I'm so based, or whatever. But then you look at, say, the California fires a few years back. There were people running through the fires to get back into their homes because their paper Bitcoin, not paper Bitcoin, but their recovery seeds written in paper was in their homes, and they were desperately running back in to retrieve them. And if you have it in something like steel, you are in theory okay once you kind of sort through the rubble. So the first thing I used to stamp my Bitcoin, I used stamp seed. That was the first thing I tried. And if you know everything about stamp seed, you have those little metal plates about yay big. And it has a bunch of little lines on it, and you stamp either 12 or 24 words. You get a hammer, you have little pins. There you go. And you do it kind of, exactly. Iron Man, Tony Stark style. You're just sitting there hammering it in, and one at a time. And it was great. I was able to do it as I was, I had like a ball game on in the background while I was doing it. And I'm just, it took me, half hour.
Smashing like an ape.
Yeah, smashing like an ape, a half hour, 45 minutes to put all my stuff in there and, do it the right way. But one of the downsides is, those plates are a little pricey. You got to pay $100 some odd for the kid. And each time, if you ever do need to change your words or want to make a double copy of it, it's going to cost you like 20 or 30 bucks to get a new plate each time. And they got to send it to you. You got to wait, to get it in there. So that was a downside. Then I tried MicroSeed. I thought the idea, I have the washers right here. I've already used one of them, but a lot of cool options here, including this vinyl washer, which you can just sneak by a metal detector. I'm like, that's amazing that you guys thought to do that. So, one of the positives of this is, you don't need to order a new plate each time you want to add another copy of your seeds or stamp new seeds. You can literally just go down to the hardware shop, get a 10-cent or 20-cent washer. Stick it in there and off you go. I thought that was really neat. Things that you guys have talked about, like you might even, there are ways you can hide it to be inconspicuous. You might just toss it in a toolkit, like, with other tools and washers and nuts and bolts. Like, who's going to look in there for your Bitcoin stuff? That just looks like a random washer. Daniel also talked about like putting it in wax, where it might look like a souvenir that you got someplace, just randomly, some tchotchke that you might put on, a ledge somewhere. So I thought that was really cool. Now, the downside, at least for this older model, and you tell me how this has been improved upon, is I thought I could just get away with the same thing like I did with my stamp seed. I'll take the pins, I'll put it in these slots here, and there's a little wheel here that you'll turn, and you turn it one notch each time, and you go around to the next space, and you take your next pin out and stamp it in. So I'm kind of paying attention to a ball game in the background, and I'm hammering, and I'm like, wait.
Did I click?
Did I click it? Did I turn it? Oh, crap. And then you got to take the thing out and check it, is it in the right place? And and then if you make a mistake, you got to start it all over again. So I tell people who want to try this, I say it's a really cool device, and I think it's a really great way to store your seeds. But you better pay attention to when you're hammering it in. You can't be distracted. This can't be like, I got the ball game on in the background, no problem. No. You got to sit there and concentrate. The other downside, again, there are trade-offs to everything, is when I first created it, I showed it to, my kid's mom, And she's like, "Oh, I can't really see the words; they're really small. Let me use
Yeah.
my phone and zoom in." I'm like, "Don't put it
Oh,
on
yeah,
your
yeah.
phone." So, if you're using it, get a magnifying glass or something to see the words. But
Yeah.
I think there's been improvements in the second iteration.
Yeah, and that's one thing about it is that the punches we use, they're 1 millimeter letters, and we have an add-on pack you can get that adds 2 millimeters, so larger size letters, as well as lowercase and special characters. So when you get into pass phrases, or you just want to encrypt, store anything you want, you can do anything you want. The base kit comes with just uppercase, so just for like a seed phrase, but they're super tiny. They're 1 millimeter. So that said, what happens, and I've done it too, where I was stamping out a key, and I'm not even fully distracted. I just kind of get in a rhythm where it's like tap, click, swap, tap, click, swap, and then I tap, click, and then I'm looking for my other one, or maybe I didn't click. I can't remember, and I find my. You just get something thrown off in your rhythm a little bit, and you're like, "Oh, did I click?" And you can't see it. So like, I also have version 1 here as well, version 1. So it's the removable table. And with the table on there, the punch goes in the square deal there. And when that's in there, once you've removed it, you can't really see down into your washer. Like you might be able to, but it's hard. And so then what you're inclined to do is to take the table off and look, and then you still can't really tell if it's aligned or not with the hole. So we got that feedback, and I experienced it myself. So in the new version, so a couple of things to the new version, based on some of that feedback, also based on the nature of milling this thing out with the separate additional parts, extra moving parts, extra cost to the manufacturing process. It's more expensive. It was just kind of more expensive. Whereas we were able to drop the cost of this by about $100 because it's basically, instead of going from like 3-4 moving parts, it's like 2. And so the base foundation is one piece, and not, instead of having a dial that turns the washer just sits on the table, and then the dial itself it's a combo table dial thing. So then the dial fits right in there. So it's closer to the washer. If I hold it right there, you can almost just see the metal. But as you're tap, click, tap, swap, oh, did I click or not? I can't remember. One, it's more visible on the metal, but 2, I don't know if you can just see a little notch on the top of that square that's an alignment line.
I believe you that it's there. It's hard to see on camera.
There's a little line right there.
I see it now. Yep.
That line. So when you don't take the dial out, you don't have to realign it or check or anything. You just look down, and if you had one, you could see it, but you just look right down at your washer and you can say, oh yeah, there's a letter right at that line, or there's not because I clicked it. So if you're wanting to verify, on the old one, you were constantly kind of maybe taking the table off and looking and checking and putting your punch in and going, oh, or you double punch a letter over itself, and then it's like, not the end of the world, but it can be annoying.
Well,
this gets rid of that.
Right. And for me, the issue is like, okay, I know what I double punched. I know what that word is supposed to be. But if I'm gone and somebody else is trying to read this, like, I'm not going to rely on them. Did he mean like an F or a G there? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that at least helps. And people have said, well, I can't read it. Kind of a feature that it's small. It comes with a magnifying glass. If I grab one of those. So anyway, comes with a magnifying glass, but glasses, whatever. You can read them. It's all there. It's small. You don't have to hammer the thing. You just light tap and it's in there because it's so small. And then once it's in there, impervious.
Right. And that's something else I had to mention. It is an easier tap than the stamp seed. You got to really whale it. Again, not to badmouth them. I think they make a very good product too. It's just there are trade-offs, on the stamps. You can see what you're doing more easily, but it's, a little more expensive. There are trade-offs to all of this. Yeah.
So anyway, version 2 improvement. If you want all the special characters or a larger size set of the letters, lowercase, special characters and all that at 2 millimeter, there's an advanced kit that gives you all of that as well for passphrases and stuff. So anyway, we love the fact that you at least got version 1.
Yeah.
And we'll have to make sure you have version 2, because this is great for proteges who are taking self-custody and end up with a plastic device or something else on paper or cardboard or hidden in the books or whatever. And it's like, no. Get that on metal. And heck, if it can be obscure, all the better. And then go from there.
Yeah, man.
So, but yes, I still advocate self-custody and run a node and keep learning. Let's see. Thinking about navigating from being a Bitcoiner, being a libertarian, and then navigating life and politics in, say, the entertainment industry in New York City, with family and friends. I had a guest on just on Sunday who wrote a book about belief systems and how people kind of get siloed up in their little tribal stuff. How you are an open book. You keep it real. You're honest. You are who you are, and that's what people love about you. Is that ever hard in the work you've had in the past of navigating that while you're a Bitcoiner, while you're a libertarian, and you work with actors or New Yorkers who may, I don't know, have their head up their ass a little bit or something else?
Well, in the acting realm, usually when I used to be a bit more focused on the domestic side of politics, I'd be on set a lot of times, and 90% of people in the actor artist world are, to the left to some degree or another. Democrats or social democrats or democratic socialists or whatever they want to call themselves, progressive or whatever. So there'd often be talk of politics on set, and it was always kind of like, an echo chamber, and anybody can get into echo chamber. Like something we have to worry about in BTC Mentor. Like we all think the same. Are we getting into an echo chamber?
Right.
So it'll always, they'll make these jokes like, har, hey, George Bush, who I have no love of George Bush for a lot of reasons.
Sure.
Like we all think he's the worst and Obama's the best, and let's crack a joke. And we're all on the same team. And I would just be like, I'll just sit there and keep my mouth shut because I don't want to lose work because of, saying the wrong thing. So I'll never lie. Like if people outright ask me like, well, what do you think? I'll tell you what I think, but I'm not in that situation. I didn't want to go like volunteer it. Like, hey, let me make sure I lose this job by, pitching in my 2 cents,
right,
with my random opinion.
Convince
here.
them.
Yeah. That's not going to happen. Then I'm much more foreign affairs focused these days. And you've seen my stuff on Twitter. I mean, I constantly post about the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, whatever.
Yeah.
As always, anything that I'm saying or my politics, that's my politics. Doesn't mean that that's the politics necessarily of BTC Mentor or anybody that I work with. We all have our opinions of things. When I saw what was happening, for instance, in Gaza, it was about 3 weeks after Israel started, their counteroffensive, and I saw this one kid who was a video just bloody and shaking and just utterly terrified. He's like maybe 5 or 6 years old. He looked very much like my son, and he was calling out for his parents. Who knows if the parents are even alive at that point? I don't know if the kid is still alive. I hope he is. I hope the parents are. But it really kind of hit a nerve with me, and then I started going and doing a deep dive, and I said to myself, I think in the past I might have been very concerned about how this might impact me getting roles. I think I just stopped caring, and I'm like, this is more important to me, and I'm fine either way. Like if I don't ever book another acting job again, I'll be okay. It's not like I'm gonna be like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? But I have a nice place to live. We're in a safe neighborhood, relatively speaking. My kids are never gonna go hungry. In theory, they have a roof over their head. So, if the worst that happens to me is I don't get paid to play pretend anymore, I'm still doing okay in life. But there are these kids who are just, they're terrified, or they're getting killed or maimed or orphaned or whatever. And like, I felt like I had to speak up. Does that mean everything I say is always 100% right? Does that mean that I'm not getting things wrong? Sure, there are mistakes that I'm making that I'm getting wrong. And if somebody wants to correct me on things, I always try to stay open-minded. Please feel free. But I felt I had to be able to look myself in the mirror at night and know that I tried my best to advocate for what I believe is people that are really being hurt. So I did that. I am sure. I mean, I can't say 100% for sure, but I'm sure there are people who've seen my posts on it who are like, well, I'm blackballing him, not working with him anymore. Because I've heard there are companies that whether they're casting agencies or production companies or whatever, that, they have a certain opinion on it a certain way, and they don't want to work with somebody else who has the other opinion. And hey, vice versa. I'm sure there are some people who've seen, people take opinions the other way on this issue. Like, well, I don't want to work with them. That's something that I'll live with, and I'm comfortable living with it. So I don't feel as nervous anymore. And because of that, I'm just like, I'll just say whatever, and chips fall where they may, and whatever happens, happens. But at least I can look at myself in the mirror and sleep easy at night, knowing that I didn't hold back just because I wanted an extra $1,000 on some random gig somewhere.
Right. I just imagine that's you have to be so socially intelligent. It's a very social job, and you're working closely with people, and you're going to be bantering, and you kind of have to get along, at some level. And so with that comes peer pressures, social, being a social chameleon at times to get along for the sake of a project.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine that can be hard because you are a man of integrity, and you're very smart, and you'll speak your mind. There are layers of like I guess maybe not layers, it's the same derangement, but as the pendulum swings and swings and swings, I've just seen like derangement left and right, where so 9/11, when that happened, I had my first glimpse of sort of Plato's cave and the story versus what I was seeing, and why we were getting into what war, where, again and again, let alone going back to okay, sort of like we invade Venezuela and then are into Iran. I remember as a kid in like 89, 90, 1990 of George Bush Sr. being effectively straight out of CIA director, deep state running the government in my mind at that time as a kid. Here we have CIA connected President Bush Sr. going right into Panama to oust Noriega and I was thinking, why? That's such a strategic. There's the canal and all, I get that, but then I'd hear things about, okay, the CIA and drugs or drug trafficking and Noriega plane ball, and then not, and then you look at all the things. Then we go right into Iraq, back in Desert Storm back then. I see the same movie playing out again and again, and then people fall for the same thing. Like Bush was pro-war, and I'm anti-war, so I'm anti-Bush. Obama was gonna be the peacetime Nobel Prize winning in Egypt president. Nobel Peace Prize, gives a great speech in Cairo, and it's like, wow, wait a sec. We're still at war. Actually, we're doing more drone attack warfare than ever.
Yep.
Now here I am getting on my rant. I just saw the same movie playing out. It didn't matter what politician got elected. I kept seeing sovereign countries getting popped, central banks going in, American industry moving in, kind of confessions of an economic hitman all over again and again. And I'm like, this is about like the money and the power and control. And now here we are in Hormuz, and it's just right in our face. Like how ridiculous is all this? So what I do is I stop and pause and try to not overly connect the dots, but think about the power and influence in American politics, how and why we elect Trump for one reason, and then he kind of flips on things and says like Epstein who, or we're going to win. And I'm like, win what?
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're a man of conviction, and I see other Bitcoiners, Saifedean Ammous, yep, and Nick Szabo and others are really out there with that, dare I say it, what is up with the Zionist agenda, I guess, divorced from anything even like Israeli. It's a political movement.
Yeah, it's a political movement.
So anyway, I appreciate your feed, and I can connect it, though, to money. Do you see how it connects to money and then why we Bitcoin?
I mean, certainly, I'm sure I'm only looking at it under the surface, and maybe if you have a deeper understanding than I do, but I always connect it in money in the sense that the state can just print endlessly to make war. You never have to tax the people. So if you can just print the money and just be like, well, I'll just buy the bombs, this money I print, you never actually have to go to the people who are otherwise are like, well, I wish we wouldn't bomb 160 schoolgirls in Iran, but I mean, what can I do? It's over there, no big deal. And Now, if I'm saying like, hey, can you pay me $3,000 extra taxes here to go bomb and do that? Suddenly it becomes a lot more real to the average person. Like, well, wait a minute. No. I don't want to pay you for this.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, in that respect, yes, the money is always connected. And this is something that Ron Paul, for anybody who knows him, we all know Ron Paul, I guess, has been talking about for decades. It's with the Federal Reserve and the central bank and the money printer that you have the century of warfare, and it's the warfare welfare state. You can have endless amount of war because you don't actually need to pay for it up front. You can just keep printing the money. So in that respect, I see the money connection. But if there are other money connections that you want to delve into, I'm happy to listen.
At a simple level, and I don't know if you ever saw any of this when you worked in Congress, but there's the lobbying effect.
Of course.
So lobbyists,
Yep.
Okay, you're a politician. I I have acquaintances who are in local politics and have moved on to state level politics. And as much as I like them as people, they're one person with their human doing their best. And you get to positions of sort of like being a gatekeeper for moving topics and ideas. And what do you know? A lot of people with the strongest opinions have a lot of money, and you could get trapped by the navigating the ethics of, oh no, we're just contributing to your campaign, to, oh, there's other ways to make money in this business, perhaps. And what do you know? I mean, some of these big longtime politicians are multi-millionaires, and you're looking at their salary and you're wondering what they do with their time.
Yep.
And are they that lucky on stocks? So there's always that.
Sure.
So money drives it, of course. And then when people think of politics too, I think people often think about, they say, oh, all politics are local.
Mm-hmm.
But then I see things play out that are certainly not very local at all. And I feel like you get to a certain level and you realize that there are aspects to our government that view elected politicians as temporary employees, and because they are not going anywhere and they've already been there. They've been there for a long time.
Yep.
And they have created their own citadels of intelligence, if you will. And they're just managing the latest temporary staff passing through, and actually have a lot more influence than, by God, I'm going to get in there and change politics.
Yep.
And then they get in and they change their tune because I think they want to survive.
Yep. 100%.
So there's that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The number one goal of any elected official is to get reelected. That's the number one thing. And even if you're approaching it from the most just selfless idea that, well, it's not for me to get reelected. I don't care about me or my ego. It's just I sincerely believe that what I'm doing here is going to be the right thing. And maybe there are some that sincerely really believe it. They say, well, I can't do the right thing without being in office. So the number one thing, even from the most cynical to the most idealistic people, is always, you got to get reelected. That's the number one thing. Everything else is secondary. That's just the nature of the beast. Yeah.
And the politics are nuts. There's so much rabbit hole I could get into there that dare I call myself a conspiracy realist or not, but it's like a quiet conspiracy at certain levels. And I think people just, when it doesn't fit in their kind of Overton window of what makes sense, and like, well, we can still vote harder, then if it's not in that window, then it's conspiracy, and that might as well be like kooky lunacy. Yep. And yet we keep seeing certain patterns that I would say, do you see what's going on here?
Yep.
There is a country in the Middle East that starts with an I, that is not the one you think, that is also one you cannot speak out loud in any derogatory manner, lest you be absolutely labeled and castigated. And Hitler.
Yeah, you're Hitler. Yeah, of course.
You're Hitler.
Yeah.
That's and that flies.
Yeah.
Apparently, like in mainstream media and socially, we grew up on it, so that just sort of flies. And then you're kind of like, gee, am I? And
no,
like,
but no. And then it only has as much weight as you give it. in the last couple of years, I really just stopped caring about that. Call me whatever you want. I mean, I know I'm not. I know I don't hate anybody because of whatever, magical make-believe sky creature they worship in the sky that, or whatever the color of their skin is. Like that's stupid. That's insane. That's collectivism. I'm a libertarian. I'm an individualist. I try as best I can. We're all human. We do judge in groups, but I do try as best I can to judge as individuals or evaluate as individuals. And even, I've gotten into debates online and people will say, well, you're a Nazi or you're Hitler or you're anti-Semitic. I'm like, dude, don't let the last name fool you. My mom's a Heb. She's Ashkenazi Jew on her side, of Polish-Russian descent. I went to Hebrew school and I had a bar mitzvah. And literally until 6 months ago, the last time I was in temple was when I was 13 years old, because I'm basically an atheist. But it was only 6 months ago. A very dear elderly friend of mine, Jewish, her sister died. And I said, well, I have to go and show support. And I went and did that. But no, don't please throw this at me. Like, you hate the Jews. I'm like, I'm ethnically, I'm a fucking Jew, dude. Hitler would have been like, yeah, you're going to the camps too. Like, all right. Bye, everybody. So no, it's just they smear people instead of actually discussing the issue at hand and evaluating the issue at hand, because it's easier to try to smear somebody. You don't actually have to reconcile with the actual issue. And that's the case all the time. And it's something that I feel like I think we're more, I don't know if I call myself on the right, but I'm a libertarian. And it's certainly been a tactic of the left for a very long time to say, well, you're a racist. That's always the catch-all. Like, oh, well, now I don't actually have to debate the issue. But it's funny, you see people online, oh gosh, who were some? I can't even remember some of the names now, but they will try to call people part of the woke right. There is somebody who has been coming up with that, trying to make it a thing. I forget his name. Whatever. And I'm like, are you still trying to make this a thing? Because you're the one using the woke tactics. You're the one smearing anybody that disagrees with you as an anti-Semite. You're the one doing it. I'm not here doing that. I'm not calling you names or saying that you're X, Y, and Z. I'm trying to actually debate the issue. So it's funny all around. And, you see these tactics play out and, everybody has their blind spots and people don't always resort to, the most honest, well-intentioned ways to debate and discuss. It's whatever. You just navigate through it.
Yeah. There are these collectivist shaming type, making it like the persecutors versus the persecuted or reframing it all, but ignoring aspects of it. And then when the attacks are so coordinated or large or coming from the same certain chatterboxes and organized in a way where it's like, it's the same phrase. It's the same phrase. You see it in, legacy media, but you also see it from other certain lobbying groups. And then all these random influencers. And it's like, this is quite coordinated.
Yeah. Oh, James Lindsay, that's who it was. I'm not trying to promote him. Yeah. He tries to promote that all the time. The woke right. I mean, you're doing the thing, dude. You're the one doing the woke thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so living in New York, do you see it with there's a Mamdani and the DSA, depending on where you live, I know there's definitely heated discussion around, creating state grocery stores and making things affordable, let alone the economics of it all. But where does all the money come from? And is New York going to be okay? Did you ever leave New York? I mean, you love New York, right?
Oh, no, I left New York in 2020. It just didn't make sense for me to live there anymore.
You left?
Yeah. So I was there from 2007 to 2020, and we left during the pandemic because I have two kids, little kids at the time. And, I was in the acting biz. That all closed down. Mama Bear's business were like, well, hey, you don't need to come to the office anymore. Work from home. Everything. Why are we paying all this money to live in a Manhattan apartment with two kids who could use a bigger yard? We could be closer to grandpa out in the suburbs. They could see their grandpa more often. It just doesn't make sense to be here anymore. So we left. So I guess his grocery stores don't affect me directly, but I mean, it's such a joke. I mean, I when I first started seeing Mamdani, I appreciated that debate that he did where he was debating all the other candidates, all the other Democrat candidates. And they were,
where would you first travel?
Yeah, where would you first travel? It was like Israel. And he's like,
why would I go to Israel? Yeah. I'm going to go to Brooklyn. How about that?
Exactly. I'm going to stay here in New York and try my best to do my best for everybody here in New York, no matter what their religion, background, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, atheist, whatever. And I was like, well, that's the correct answer. Oh, I like what that guy said and what he did there. He exactly said the right thing. And that was more or less the last thing that I liked about Montanami, because everything after that is just socialist nonsense. And the grocery store, my goodness. I mean, the funny thing is, a lot of the folks on the left will talk about, wanting to stick up for the little guy and the mom and pop shop. And my God, and they'll get on like big companies, like big conglomerates like Walmart or Target or whatever, for dropping their prices below market prices in order to try to push out the little guys that can't afford to do that. You are running a grocery store that's intentionally going like 25, 30%, 50% below market rates. What do you think that is going to do to the local mom and pop shop?
Their
It's
margins
crazy.
are already so
They're
thin.
so thin, but
And they're blaming the tail end of the merchant for the prices. How about, let alone the money,
yeah.
but the supply chain, the cost of goods, where the
Yeah.
subsidies are, is what this
Red
stuff is.
tape, regulation, all of that plays into it.
Yeah. No,
So,
you price them too high, so we're going to undercut you.
right. And
Well,
then how do you prevent like another business from just saying, okay, well, I'll buy all your ultra low below market products, bring it back to my store and sell it there. And now they're saying, well, we're gonna ID people. And
yeah.
now you get into the silliness of like, okay, so an ID is good enough for a grocery store, but it's totally definitely racist if you want to vote. It's all just silly. Whatever. And I don't mean to necessarily pick on the left here. There's just a lot that I usually pick on the left here.
Sure.
I've done that most of my life, because the right has a ton of their hypocrisy too. So
Sure.
there's a lot of it going around.
Yeah, no, I will see clown world left and right. And
Yep.
Currently it's like, weirdly, and this is why I vote. I guess I put my energy in Bitcoin. I vote with my Bitcoin. I have family and other people that get caught up in like trying to vote harder or care harder. And there are times when I really have to back off all that and just be like, you know what? It's a clown show left and right. And I don't know that there's a fix to it. I think it's done. I think it's cooked. Or I don't know, maybe it has to play out and fail in some ways. Maybe it's not a collapse. Maybe there are just ruptures that cause people to say, "Oh, well that doesn't work." And so then we change and learn from it. But then I'll get cynical because I feel like, no. This is the way it's always been, is a kind of a deepening clown show. So vote harder, be distracted, stay angry and poor. So anyway, that's where, all things considered in that regard, the best I can do is focus on like myself, my family, my community. And then what is that for us in terms of economic power? That's Bitcoin. So
Yeah.
Bitcoin is still kind of that hub with all these spokes coming out of it. And it brings me back to Bitcoin. So, and that's why, even despite all the crazy dramas and things and real calamities we've had through Bitcoin, and there've been others in the past, but through all this now, I'm still reminded like, oh, no, my why I Bitcoin has not changed. In fact, it's kind of being reinforced all the time.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm not one to necessarily price follow, because I know where this all ends up. At least I believe where this all ends up long term. So I'm not one to like look day to day at prices. Like it's up, it's down. It's like it's going to do what it's going to do.
yeah.
But I did take a look at it when we had the exposure of cold card created private keys when people were getting their wallets swiped, and I thought, oh crap, this price is going to drop 10 or 15 grand overnight. People are going to panic, because this is, you could argue, this is the worst disaster that has befallen Bitcoin. It's a direct attack on private custody. And we were, I think, at 65, like right before it happened. And then it dropped to like 62 and change. And then a few days later, it's back up to 64. I was like, wow, that is not what I expected at all. That was really resilient. Now, is that because there's just people who firmly are convicted about, their belief in Bitcoin? Or did it have to do with just maybe, we're in this space where we're all talking about these signing devices. Oh, I used a cold card, I used a treasure. Maybe we're that very tiny subset. And in the grand scheme of Bitcoin, there's just really aren't a lot of people that use the cold card in the first place. Maybe that's it. So it didn't affect many people. I don't know what the answer is, but I was very surprised. I thought the price would drop a lot more.
Yeah, I was feeling initially that, so at one level, you could say this one piece, which you would say is like the one thing to do right, but that one thing is what wasn't working. The device itself, like you showed off, does all these other things very well, but it just didn't RNG right.
That one most important thing that
the one job you had, you did totally not just fuck up at, but kind of knowingly or unknowingly basically cover over or fake about. But that said, it does a lot of amazing things. So I went through these stages of thinking, well, people may recognize it's just this one RNG. So if you did it right, you're fine. Or cold card still works in all these ways. Just do it right. And now we're all going to verify too. But reputationally, no, it could be that, yeah, cold card is cooked because it's the reputation that matters and that's done. I also thought that reputation problem would bleed into Bitcoin generally. And so in my head, I had days of roiling emotions and like reconciling all the things around what was going on. And I'd go to work, I'd look at mainstream Bitcoin news come Monday morning. It was nowhere. Nobody was talking about it. Bitcoin price just sort of chugged along, actually went up. And I was like, wow, this didn't really bleed over anywhere. Nobody outside of our, environment ecosystem seems to care or doesn't recognize it.
Yeah.
And then BIP 110's going on, and then it's TikTok next block. And I'm like, wow, yeah, no, Bitcoin's okay. Actually, Bitcoin is great.
Yeah.
So anyway, we continue to Bitcoin. I just, Bitcoin for me remains just such a core part of me. And it changed my framing on views on life and everything, and sort of unburdening myself from certain concerns that people will have. But then there's a serenity to it all where you change the things you can. And as much as I try to pay attention and have my integrity intact, like I don't like war. What happened in Gaza is grotesque. What's happening now in Iran is ridiculous to grotesque. And
what's happening in Sudan, which hardly ever gets talked about.
Yeah, right.
Because they don't have the right color skin. I don't know, but hardly anybody talks about that.
Oh, there are so many things in the world going on but you realize that your source of info comes from these kind of fire hose feeds of a trough. And I try to not get caught up in too much and at the same time be paying attention. All of this, I guess, at a bigger picture, if you got a moment to think at another level, there's the concept of like the fourth turning to all this.
Yep.
Is that something that resonates with you? That I've had a number of guests that it's like if we zoom out and look at all of the things going on in the world that are like, improvements steadily in some areas and then more and more wild craziness in others. And like maybe kind of a desperation by powers that be to maintain their fiat relevancy, perhaps. I don't know. It's a contest of nations. But if you zoom out, I've had a number of Bitcoiners refer to like a turning effect, a fourth turning, socially, culturally, generationally. We're just kind of in that phase of our adolescence of humanity. What do you feel about that stuff?
Yeah, I remember reading about, I think most of your listeners and viewers probably are familiar with the fourth turning. I remember reading about that a couple of years ago. And there were things about it that I thought, oh, yeah, I can see that because it does kind of work in well with that meme we've all seen, hard times make strong men make good times make weak men make hard times, go around the circle. And you could impose that onto generations. I do think about it sometimes, and I think there is probably something to it. I don't know how much there is to it. I know the guy that wrote about it kind of shoehorned it into a kind of American history, specifically talking about the Revolutionary War, and then it's 80 years to the Civil War, and then 80 years until the market crash in World War II, and it does it always work exactly in these 80 or 85 or 90 year increments? The idea that currently this current fourth turning, if we're in one, I guess people would argue began with a great financial crisis in 2008, and each turning lasts 20, 25 years or so. So we're coming up on the end of it when it all culminates, hopefully not in a hot kinetic major war. I mean, we're already in one. Hopefully it doesn't spread further. I don't know. I'm open to it. I think generally, just for me over the past 5 years or so, maybe 10, but more so the last 5, historically, I've been mostly an Occam's razor type guy, kind of the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. And I still more or less sort of lean that way. But having seen all of like the different things that people would label conspiracy theories, maybe even if they don't come fully true, but we see that there is at least some truth to them over the past few years, especially, I'm like, well, I feel like my mind is much more open to other ideas now, and I am open to the idea of a fourth turning.
Uh-huh.
Not that that's necessarily a conspiracy theory type of thing, just a way to look at history. But again, I don't know if I fully buy it the way it's laid out, but I think there's probably some merit to it. So yeah,
Yeah.
what do you think?
I've felt like it makes sense when I think of the generations like my parents, my grandparents, going from my perspective on it being like from the Great Depression and World War II, and then coming out of that, and then the boomers and how my parents went through that, and then how I felt about it coming out of childhood through the 80s and 90s as a Gen X guy. And then seeing my kids navigating the world and their perspectives on what the problems are. I see these trends for sure, and I imagine like it vibes with me. And then sociologically, I'll bring to stage here a graph that I had looked at. I saw this, so I can't remember where I got this, but the turnings being sort of a discrepancy or resonance with the available of supply versus demand of order. Like
Hmm.
we politically or culturally, we sort of expect or desire or do not have a sense of like order.
Mm-hmm.
And that coming out of World War II, we had this sort of sense of like there was a high degree of like traditional social order, and the boomer or not the boomers, but the silent greatest veteran generation of World
Mm-hmm.
War II, we're all just aligned cohesively with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then and that stayed strong for a while, like being pushed governance wise and then deep state intelligence wise for a long time. And yet the boomers broke away from that socially, where they're like breaking away, finding their
Mm-hmm.
own path. The sex, drugs, and rock and roll, just freedom, liberation. We can go out and do our own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the available supply of order has gone way, way down. And now you have people, and you see it left and right, demanding their own version of like order now,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
controlling speech,
Yep.
printing the money, paying
Yeah.
for stuff,
Right.
uh, triggering emotional debates around basically shit's broke. We're going to fix it in these ways.
Yep.
And the supply of it. Now, I happen to work in like the criminal justice realm day to day, and our approach to that has changed. Or you see the way things are prosecuted. I'd say also the way that um, outcomes economically, what you see happen in New York City, all of this is changing. We have this huge divide of the supply of order that we feel versus the expectation we have about it. And this is where this schism occurs in this fourth turning, is that there historically in America, there's always been some crisis that then yanked it back to this over here again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what is this schism? I feel like there could be one. Now, are we seeing it now with warfare and what else could come with AI? I don't know. The nature of warfare has changed with drones and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But man, the propaganda is just sick. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I
That's
don't know. I kind of feel mixed about it. I feel like it could be an oversimplification of processes that aren't that simple or contiguous. At the same time, we all kind of feel it.
yeah.
There's this tension similar with the Bitcoin cycle. There's a sort of like tension I feel with the money printer that's about to get hot, or the Fed is cornered. They're going to have to print the money. They
They have
cannot.
to.
They have to.
There's no way out.
And so when that rips, we've been in this bear market, and that Bitcoin itself is in this tension of like, my God, everyone feels like this runway is about to run out and it's about to rip because the money has to print. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes me bullish. But I would have been black pilled if not for Bitcoin. And with Bitcoin now, I was black pilled
Yep.
up into 9/11 and a bit after that. I was just kind of black pilled about all the things going on. When I found Bitcoin, it was like, oh, there is a cure to all of this.
Right. Yeah. If I'm the exact same way, if not for Bitcoin, I would definitely be black pilled. Like, Yeah, I don't know what I would do without it. I mean, on the one hand, I say, as I said earlier, like it's not that I think Bitcoin is Jesus or something. You know, you find me a better thing, I'm open to it. But the idea that this is possibly a way to get around, you know, that sly roundabout way, you know, to kind, as Hayek said, to kind of get around. I think it was Hayek that said that. You know, the idea of the state money printer, the state and money being tied together. Is this finally a way to get around that? I got my fingers crossed. I believe it. I hope it. Will it happen? I can't say 100% for sure, but yeah, this has been something I'd be like, okay, man, there is hope. Bitcoin for me is hope.
Yeah, Bitcoin remains hope, and so I appreciate your service as a BTC mentor. The work you help others get through and sort out and learn. We'll continue orange pilling, and we'll navigate the social ecosystem around all that as we go. But TikTok next block, and I'm one super bullish, remain super passionate, and all of this galvanizes why I think we do this. But let me bring to stage. I want to point out where you're at on X. You can find Gary here on X at Gary Lee NYC. You have an IMDb page, which let's see if, yep, you've got an actor profile here on IMDb. It's kind of cool to check out. You've got your own website. You can go to GaryMahmoud.com and learn all about Gary, see a lot of cool and funny appearances you've had on television and what we say is film, but entertainment media and all that. That's really cool. You've produced comedy sketches and stuff online that funny stuff, millions of views, in fact. So this has got to be really kind of cathartic for you in a way as well to have done that stuff.
It was fun to be able to do, you know, when you can just sit and make your own stuff and not have to rely on somebody else to cast you. You know, you find something funny. Well, let's just go make fun of it. I haven't done as much lately. You know, my co-producer who I've worked with a lot, he still lives in the city, so it's harder for us to get together. And I've had, you know, other things that have taken my attention in recent years. But yeah, getting to do some of those fun things were a hoot. Like that was the first video that we made together, Panhandler Party. We shot it on a subway. This is like 12 years ago or 13 at this point. And it ended up with millions of views, like right off the bat. And I was like, oh, well, this is easy. We should just do this all the time. And then like the very next video we made had like a couple thousand. I'm like, oh, okay. We just kind of got lucky and struck gold there, but we still made some and we had fun. We had another one hitting a few million after that. And it's just fun to do, man. I like especially making fun of things that a lot of people aren't willing to touch necessarily. Like, well, F it. Let's just go make fun of it and take the piss out of it and see what happens.
Yeah. Must have been so fun. Cringe Factory. You can find that work on YouTube at Cringe Factory. Josh and yourself, couple of clowns that make funny videos. A lot of fun stuff there. Have you ever done stand-up? I'm just curious.
I've dabbled. I'm a dilettante with that. You know, there are people who really pursue it and make a living at it. They go out to open mics 3 or 4 times a night. And I was going like maybe once or twice a month and playing around. Probably the highlight, the crescendo of my stand-up career, you know, whatever was. I got a buddy of mine, Andrew Ginsberg's good friend of mine. We met doing SNL a few years back. We were just doing background work and we got to be friends. And he asked me to open for him at Caroline's in New York. And if you know New York and the comedy club scene there, Caroline's is definitely one of the more well-known clubs, along with, you know, the Comedy Cellar and Gotham and Comic Strip on the Upper East Side. But Caroline's is right there in Midtown around 49th or 47th and Broadway. And I got to open for him and it was really cool. I think I had a fun time. I did like a 7 or 8 minute set. I think I got more gasps and shocks than laughter, which for me is kind of what I was going for. Like, I love that. Like people are like, oh heavens, clutch the pearls. Like, oh yes, please give me more. Hate me. So I enjoyed that. I had a good time.
You know, when free speech is under threat, I think comedians often play an important role to say, hey, you can boo if you want. I mean, you know, when you put yourself on stage, talk about nerves or, you know, the courage it takes to do that. But at least it's a forum at which we understand that as people, we can say what we want to say. And, you know, you manage the outcomes of that. But as long as we can still do that, I hate to imagine like what you see in other countries. I mean, the England and the Australia comes to mind. I have some Australian people I know, and they're like, we don't have like a First Amendment. Like you have to like culturally watch what you say. And it's like, what? So in a way, comedians can go up there and say, hey, I'm joking here. Like you
Yeah.
can hate on it or laugh or laugh when you didn't want to. But comedians help short circuit that hang up we have about appropriate speech. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's always been the role of the court jester. That's the one person who could kind of badmouth the king because it's all in good fun. It's all in jest, in theory.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's important work, comedy. BTC Mentor, go to btcmentor.io. You can get a free discovery call, sort out kind of what you may not even know what entirely you need, or maybe you're starting, or maybe you just want to check on your setup. But you can start on that journey. You can contact Gary directly and book a session here to have Gary as your mentor, be his protege, if you will.
Yep. And I'll always say, if there's something about me that doesn't rub you the right way, that's why I have so many different mentors of many different backgrounds and different styles of teaching. Find somebody else on there. It's all great people to work with. I'm so blessed to know all these people. I've met many of them personally at different conferences. They're great. You will find somebody there that will definitely help you out.
Yeah. It's a great team. Of course, Ben's the figurehead of it with BTC sessions and all that. He's organized a lot of great guys here. And so anyway, it's a great team, very knowledgeable, a lot of different personalities and skill sets that you can tap into that way, different packages that you can get. So depending on your needs, different packages, what where you may be at in Bitcoin. You've got Instagram here as well. If you like the Instagram.
I never use it. I only think I started an Instagram like 3 years ago or something because I did a sketch on The Late Show with Colbert, and my agent was like, "You should probably put this on Instagram." I'm like, "Should I?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't have one. We'll go start an Instagram." I think it's like that's me. Oh, that's me, and that's my dog. They say never meet your heroes, but I've met him a few times, and he's just a wonderful human being. I've been disappointed by so many other people in life. He has not disappointed me yet. I hope that stays the way he is. Can I tell you a really quick story about Ron Paul?
Yeah, totally.
All right. So I first met him. Actually, it'll be like a 5-minute story if you have the time.
Yeah, totally. I'm fine.
So I was working on Capitol Hill from 01 to 07. And I think it was 03 when he gave this famous speech against the Iraq war and a bunch of other things. And I was sitting in the back legislative office, as we call it, for the congressman that I worked for. And we're just sitting in the back office. And of course, in the back office, you have the TVs on that have the House floor. So you can watch what these politicians are saying, what they're speechifying next. And I saw him come down, and my goodness, everything he was saying was like, oh my God, these are things that I've thought for a long time and could never quite put into words. This is amazing. And you're saying all these things that nobody here ever says. I need to go I want to say personally, thank you. So I went down to his office, was in the next building over. And I talked to his scheduler or secretary at the front desk. I said, listen, the congressman doesn't know me. I'm not from his district. I don't have any money to donate to. I'm just some staffer in another office. I just wanted to come and say thank you. I felt like I really wanted to express my thanks that he came down and said the things that I thought needed to be said bravely. And she said, well, he'll be back in 20 minutes. You can thank him yourself if you want. I said, oh, okay. So I waited around for 20 minutes. And he came in, and I was like, Dr. Paul, thank you so much for saying what you said. And I thought it would just be that, like, okay, no problem. Thank you. Good day to you. And he said, oh, well, you want to come in and talk for a bit? He invites me into his personal office for 20 minutes. Wow. I have nothing to give him. I have no money. I can't give him my vote, nothing. And I've been in a lot of congressmen's offices working on the Hill. You see a lot of different places, and all of them, you go into their personal office. It's just like this leather and oak setup, and it is just filled with plaques and trophies, like from like the local chamber of commerce or the local union. And you're the best congressman for our group. And you did the best job for this group and this award. Paul had none of that. None of it. It was just books all around. And while all these other congressmen will take these lobbyist lunches, Paul would go down to the House cafeteria, get like a soup and a sandwich, and would sit and just read. And I was like, Jesus, I mean, this guy is like too good to be true. This is like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. What's the catch? There has to be a catch here. And man, I've met him a couple other times since then. He hasn't disappointed. And my father, he turned 90 a few months back. And I thought, gosh, what can I get this guy as a gift? Because he has everything he could want. what am I going to get him? Like a new tie or something? He doesn't need any of that. But he has been a longtime Ron Paul fan that I only discovered later in life. But before I kind of got turned on to him, he was a longtime fan, mostly for his Paul's talk on foreign affairs and anti-war. My
Right.
dad isn't exactly the libertarian I am, so he's much more on Paul. With him for the foreign affairs stuff. But he respected him a lot for a long time and appreciated him. I said, you know what? I wonder if I could get Ron Paul to call him for his 90th birthday. And I got in touch with somebody on his staff through Twitter. And I told him the situation. And I said, it would mean a lot to my dad. I'm a huge Ron Paul fan. Here are some pictures with me and the good doctor. I'm not somebody trying to like play a prank on him or anything. Like I'm very sincere. And I'll gladly donate to his Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity. And the guy got back to me and said, you don't need to donate. The doctor would be happy to do that. And I said, are you sure? I donated anyway, because I felt like I wanted to donate. And then I on the day of, I called him like the day before. I was like, are we still on? And his staff's like, yeah, we're still on 1 p.m. tomorrow. So I went over to my dad's. I was like, Dad, you got to make sure you don't sleep late, because he's an old man. He lives by himself. He sleeps late sometimes. He doesn't get enough sleep. Sometimes he'll be kind of out of it. I said, Dad, you have to get sleep the night before. You have to be alert. I promise you this is going to be a great gift. I didn't tell him what it was. And my dad is from Egypt. He's a very thick accent. It's like Balky from Perfect Strangers. That's just being raised by. I was like, Dad, what are you going to do? Get me belly dancer? No, Dad, I'm not getting you a belly dancer. Just promise me you're going to get sleep the night before and be sharp. So I'm sitting there. 1 o'clock comes around. The phone rings, and my dad he just ignores it. I'm like, Dad, can you pick up the phone? He's like, it is telemarketer. Dad, can you pick up the phone, please? I don't want to. Pick up the damn phone, Dad. So finally he picks it up. He's like, hello. And a very thick, deep voice. And the guy says, Mr. Mahmoud. And my dad says, who is this? And the guy says, well, this is Dr. Ron Paul. And it took my dad like a second for it to click in his head. And immediately he sat up in his chair like, oh, Dr. Paul. And I thought it would be like a 30-second call. Like, oh, congratulations. Happy birthday. Very a cursory thing. And I would have been totally happy with that. No problem. Paul stayed on the phone with him for 10 minutes.
Wow.
And through the times where my dad, who felt bad, was like, well, I'm sure you're busy, you have things to do. I was like, no, let's talk. And he wants to learn about where he came from and everything. I mean, Ron Paul, I don't know. Could there be a more genuine person in the world?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I hope I'm never disabused of that notion, but my goodness, every interaction I've had with him and everything I've heard from anybody else, I've never heard a bad word uttered about the man. He's just a treasure. So you showed the picture. I'm sorry, I had to go on my Ron Paul rant.
No. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. The Ron Paul revolution was partially, now I'm old enough, I guess I should say, to remember Ross Perot and some of that.
Sure.
And that was more economic in nature. Ron Paul really got into the foreign policy, and that Ron Paul revolution helped wake me up more additionally in my, older life, of the nature of politics and the choices we had to make and why I was voting at all and for what. And he woke a lot of people up, honestly. And he's just stuck throughout his political career and afterwards and all that. He's just stuck so true to his core values and that very loving, positive nature that he has in the face of trying to grapple with this beast. He's held true to just this positive spirit to it all. And it's just amazing.
He has. Yeah. And along those lines, I'll tell you another really quick story. Back in, I think it was 2003 as well, when George W. Bush Jr. was trying to push the Medicare prescription drug program, to add the prescription drug program to Medicare, which would just explode the budget. There were historically Republicans are supposedly against it, but
Right.
our guy, Team Red, is in the White House. We got to go along with what he's saying. So Tom DeLay, the whip at the time on the Hill, was going around to different offices trying to make sure the other Republican congressmen who were objecting to it would turn and vote for it. And I remember they held the vote open after midnight. They held it beyond the time limit of the vote, which they weren't supposed to do. They went against their own rules when they set up the vote. And there were Republicans in Congress literally physically hiding in different places in the building, like behind the stairwell or this little alcove or whatever, because DeLay was going around and sending his minions around to threaten these people. Like, if you don't vote for this, we're going to make sure you never get elected. We're going to make sure your son never has anything, like threatening these people. You better get on board the train here. I don't care what your reservations are about it. This is an important thing for the big man in the White House. This is his big plan. You better do it. Paul sat quietly on the House floor, didn't go bother hiding, didn't do a thing. and not one single person came to bother him because they all knew there was nothing they could say to get him to change his mind. And he's Dr. No for a reason. And I just love that story. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had that to an extent with Massey, and we saw how Massey got attacked and hammered by that, which it tells you a lot about the nature of the politics at that level.
Yeah.
The incentives and the human action at that level, it's pretty gross.
It's gross. Yeah. I used to think I'd want to get into politics, and I've so no desire after seeing how the sausage is made. It is disgusting. And I went into Congress thinking, well, I was working for a Republican, and I was definitely much more of a Republican or conservative back in those days. I'm certainly not anymore. I was like, oh, well, my team is the good ones. We'll make sure we do the right thing. They both suck. They both suck so hard, and they do awful things there. And I don't like either one of them.
Yeah. What are progressive about? What are conservatives conserving? These terms we have in our minds, they mean things, and it's all this statist control freakism, and it's kind of psychopathic.
It is. Yeah. And one day they're for one thing, they'll switch it the next, and everybody has to just put in the new chip in their head. Well, yeah, so I've always been for this. We've always been at war with East Asia. Eurasia is our ally, and flip the next day for my 1984 fans. It's crazy. It's like it's cultish to some degree.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, voting harder, folks, is I vote with my money and Bitcoin. So let's see here. Yeah. So great picture you had there. I love that.
Yeah, he's wonderful.
You are on Nostr as well. For those that do Nostr, whichever way you do it, you're on there. And yeah, what can I say? Gary, this has just been awesome. For those that need guidance and help in Bitcoin, are not autodidactic, as we say.
Thank you. Now I know what it means. Thank you.
You need help sometimes, or you can lean in and study, but there are times where some people they need that helping hand, human to human contact, a personal experience, and they learn by talking through it and something hands-on, and don't trust themselves. I understand that. So anyway, BTC Mentor, thank you for what you do, and we can land this plane today. I really appreciate the time you've lent me, more than I expected. And it's been really fun talking about a lot of the big picture things.
No, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And until next time, everybody, thanks for joining. Bye, everybody.